Los Angeles in 1963 looked calm from the outside. A growing city, a booming film industry, clean uniforms on LAPD patrol officers, and the sense that order still outweighed chaos. But underneath that calm was a reality every officer knew. Danger could appear out of nowhere during the most ordinary moment on the quietest street. On the night of March 9, 1963, that danger arrived during something as simple as a traffic stop at Carlos Avenue and Gower Street in Hollywood. A stop that should have taken 5 minutes. A stop that instead became one of the most infamous crimes in LAPD history. LAPD officers Ian Campbell and Carl Hettinger were riding in an unmarked car that night, patrolling the Hollywood area. Campbell was the senior officer, steady and respected, known for his intelligence and even for playing the bagpipes at department events. Hettinger was newer, still learning, still adjusting to the instincts that come with years on the job. Around 10 p.m., they saw a car make an illegal U-turn near Gower. It was an old 1946 Ford Coupe, and to Campbell, the violation was enough reason to make contact. They pulled the car over, unaware that the decision would change both of their lives forever. Inside the Ford were two armed criminals, Gregory Powell, nicknamed Gypsy, and his partner Jimmy Lee Smith. Both men had long records. Both had guns hidden in their waistbands. And the moment Campbell approached the car, Powell made a decision that turned the stop into a kidnapping. He pulled a revolver, pointed it directly at Campbell, and ordered both officers to hand over their weapons. Campbell complied, calculating that any resistance in that moment would get Hettinger killed instantly. Hettinger followed, stunned and overwhelmed as Powell forced both officers into their own police car. Powell climbed into the back seat with the .38 trained on their heads, ordering Campbell to start driving north. Smith followed in the Ford behind them. Mile after mile, the two officers were taken away from Los Angeles, past the valley, past the edge of the city, and deeper into Kern County. In the darkness, Powell lectured them coldly about police procedure, about how they should have searched him, about how easy it had been to take control. Hettinger sat silently, trying to hold himself together as he realized they were being driven into farmland, isolated, empty, and far from help. Eventually, the cars left the road and turned into a field outside Bakersfield, a wide stretch of crops and dirt, flat and dark, the kind of place where sound disappears into the night. Powell ordered Campbell out of the car first. Hettinger stood beside Smith, powerless, watching his partner walk forward under the barrel of Powell's gun. The air was still. Campbell tried to speak, telling Powell there was no need to shoot, reminding him that killing a police officer would only destroy both their lives. Powell didn't care. He asked Campbell if he knew about the Little Lindbergh Law, which imposed the death penalty for kidnapping that resulted in bodily harm. Campbell said yes. Then Powell raised the gun and shot Campbell in the mouth. Campbell fell instantly. As he lay on the ground, 4 more rounds were fired into his chest. The accounts differ on whether they came from Powell or from Smith, but the result was the same. Officer Ian Campbell, 31 years old, husband, father, and respected LAPD veteran, was dead in an onion field miles from home. Smith suddenly panicked and ran into the darkness. Hettinger ran too, terrified, disoriented, and chased by the fear that Powell was coming for him next. He sprinted through the rows of onions, stumbling through the uneven ground, looking for any sign of lights or a road. For miles, he moved through the fields until he finally found a farmhouse. He pounded on the door, and when a man answered, Hettinger collapsed, gasping that he was an LAPD officer and that his partner had been shot. Authorities were notified, and Kern County deputies arrived quickly to secure the scene. Within days, both Powell and Smith were captured. The case moved fast, not just because a police officer had been killed, but because the brutality of the kidnapping shocked both Los Angeles and the entire state. In court, prosecutors laid out the abduction step by step. Powell insisted it hadn't been premeditated. Smith tried to distance himself from the shooting, but the jury wasn't moved. Both men were convicted of kidnapping and murder and sentenced to death. Years later, when California's death penalty was overturned, their sentences were reduced to life. Powell spent the rest of his life behind bars until he died in 2012. Smith drifted in and out of the prison system due to repeated parole violations, and died in 2007. But while justice moved forward, another tragedy unfolded, one that didn't happen in a courtroom or an onion field, but inside the mind of the man who survived. Karl Hettinger was never the same after that night. Instead of being treated solely as a victim, he was met with intense scrutiny inside the LAPD. Some commanders insisted he had surrendered too easily, that he should have resisted earlier, that he failed to protect his partner. The department made him stand before recruit classes to lecture on officer survival mistakes, a practice that only deepened his shame and trauma. Hettinger's emotional decline was slow but devastating. He suffered from guilt, nightmares, and anxiety long before PTSD was commonly understood in policing. He eventually left the LAPD. He was later arrested for shoplifting small items he didn't need, a common reaction to unresolved trauma, though few recognized it at the time. He spent years trying to rebuild his life, but the weight of what happened, and the way he was treated afterward, never left him. He died in 1994 at age 59. Out of the pain of the Onion Field case came real institutional change. The LAPD overhauled its training on high-risk vehicle stops, officer safety, search procedures, and psychological support after traumatic incidents. To this day, Academy recruits still learn about the Onion Field kidnapping, not as a story of failure, but as a reminder of how quickly danger can escalate and how important it is to understand survival tactics in the field. The Onion Field killing remains one of the most emotional, haunting cases in Los Angeles history. A night that began with a simple traffic violation at Carlos and Gower turned into a kidnapping, a murder, and a decades-long struggle for the man who lived through it. A night that revealed both the brutality criminals can unleash and the hidden wounds trauma can carve into a survivor's life. A night that reshaped the LAPD's approach to danger in ways that still echo across the department today. It's a story about fear, survival, loyalty, and loss. A story that started in Hollywood and ended in a quiet field under the dark sky of Kern County. A story that continues to remind Los Angeles how thin the line is between routine and tragedy, and how quickly that line can disappear when a single moment turns the world upside down.